I want to give the senator the floor, but because I'm waiting for more CEC members to come on, and I know the public is on, so I appreciate everyone who's joining us this evening. Maybe the superintendent can give us a bit of a briefing of what happened this week since school did start, and then we can start after she's done. Do you mind, Superintendent?
No, not at all. So, hi everyone, good evening. Just really excited to talk about District 25 schools this week. So just so everyone knows, my team visited every school to check in to make sure that we were ready and up and running. And of course, we had the pleasure of seeing our youngest learners. I enjoyed being in pre-K classrooms so much. So things that we checked when we went into schools was around PPE, school nurses, to make sure that the buildings were clean. I really want to give a big thank you to our custodians. District 25 buildings just look amazing. I was talking to the district facilities representative, and just thanking him so much for the work in our schools. If you have an opportunity to be outside the schools, just know they were planting and just putting up signs and posters and welcoming our students. And we're really excited. And as I've been saying to everyone, being in schools and just looking at the welcoming environment that our principals and teachers have created, I'm just so excited for everyone to come back. So we had our youngest learners, our pre-Ks in this week, and in the classrooms that I visited, they were amazing instruction. Our teachers were there, ready and so welcoming and loving to our students. One of the classrooms I visited, there was a dance lesson happening. So I had an opportunity to dance with students. I just really missed so much being in schools with the staff and our learners, and I'm excited. And as I've been saying to families who have asked, we are ready for next week. Our principals have worked so hard to make sure that the schedules are in place. Our teachers have been in all week preparing for our in-school learners. We also started our online learning this week, our virtual learning, and even in many of the schools that I visited, I saw teachers animated teaching from their classrooms virtually. They have worked together to ensure that we have a solid, rigorous curriculum. They are well aware from both the expectations of the Chancellor and the Mayor, as well as the work that we do in District 25 and our CEC. We know that that was a concern and something that we've been supporting our teachers with all along. And it's great in these unprecedented times that I'm learning so much from them as well, just in terms of what good instruction should look like virtually. So we are really excited in District 25 for this time. I've been waiting for it for so long. And I am really excited. As I said, today we had a meeting at PS 24. Dr. D'Antona and I will be opening that school on Tuesday and welcoming our students back. And we are just really excited and ready and just can't wait. I can't even, as you can see, I just am, this is a day and a week that we were hoping for. And as always, District 25 shines. So we are excited for that. Additionally, one of the things now that I have the community, and I know that many of our principals have had town hall meetings, as I've asked for them to have this week, to talk to families about making sure that they do understand the screening process when we do enter schools. Our borough office has given all of our schools the process of doing this in multiple languages, and I will actually make sure that they are in the chat for you so everyone has access to them. One of the things that we want parents to be aware of is that you can fill out the screeners in 3 ways. You can fill out the paper copies, which you can get either online for the first day, and the school will make sure that you have access to that from home and have your child bring that to school. Or if you walk your child to school and would like to do that on your phone, you're able to do that on your phone as well. And as I said, Louis, if you can get everything up in the chat for families just so they have access to that. And you can show that when your child is coming into school. And if your child does have a phone, and we're thinking that's for our older learners, by no means should you feel you need to buy your child a phone. If your children have phones and they want to fill that out in advance, they can do that as well. So if your child's screener is ready and prepared, they can gain access into schools. If not, the school needs to assist them in filling out the paper copy, and we do need to take their temperature before entry. We've worked really hard with our staff this week to make sure that there are clear systems so we can get our students into schools as quickly as possible. So many of you that have children entering school on Tuesday for our K-5s, as well as Thursday, and our K-8s, as well as Thursday for our middle schools, your principals have had town hall meetings explaining that to you. So if you got town hall meeting requests and have not had that yet, I know there are some that will be tomorrow, please make sure that you have an opportunity to log on so you can hear about our screeners and how we're preparing to welcome our students back into our buildings next week.
Thank you, Superintendent DeMango. And on behalf of the community and the CEC, we want to also thank you, the district office, all the principals that have been working very hard, as well as the teachers, in making sure that we opened, perhaps not as we had wished for, but at least we've opened this week and we're on our way. This is a special meeting, so I will get into the details of why we call this meeting. But what I want to start off with is just to do a roll call with the CEC members. So I want to see if we have a quorum present. In the event we have to vote on any type of resolution this evening. And then I'm going to give the floor to Senator Liu.
Joseph DiBenedetto.
Present.
Aquila Sorio.
Present.
Edward Kim. Tawana Rivera.
Present.
Hi, Tawana. Monica Latino.
Present.
Brooke Abadi.
Present.
Okay. Rashmi Krishnaraj.
Present.
Anne-Marie Knable.
Present.
Victor Lee. And Lilik Vigianti.
Present.
Okay.
So we have nine members present. So we do have a quorum this evening. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Okay, so Senator, are you there? You've waited patiently, and I want to have you say what you want to say. If you're here. Okay, so I'll wait till he comes back. So the purpose of this meeting this evening is we've reached a lot of. Well, actually, the community has reached out to us because there seems to be some confusion, a lot of voices regarding the remote portion for learning for those blended students. So I know the district office is here, so just correct me if I am wrong, but it is our understanding that there are two types of students, the full-time remote and the blended. With that, we have 3 layers of teachers from what we understand. The teachers that will teach full-time remote, the teachers that will teach live instruction, and then those teachers who are to teach the remote portion of those blended students. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So the community seems to have misunderstood the remote portion of the blended instruction. And that seems to be the reason why we're here this evening. A lot of parents, including CEC members, were not aware of the fact that our children who are in the remote blended instruction will not receive live instruction on their remote days. Is that correct?
No, that's not necessarily.
Not necessarily, okay.
Right.
But there is the possibility that there will not be live instruction for those blended students on their remote days, correct?
So one of the things that we've spent a lot of time talking with our principals and our staff members in the district is that although we have very seasoned principals who are very good at programming, this year is an unprecedented year of a certain type of programming where we may not necessarily have been, that is new for all of us. So in programming for our schools, we needed to look at all three types of instruction that need to be in place for our learners, and to look at our staffing and to start programming to best meet the needs of each group of learners. So I can say that both myself and Dr. D'Antona spent the month of July and August working individually with our principals, but also with our reopening committees. And there were discussions at each individual school about what is possible at that time and how we will program for the staffing that we have. Additionally, we had multiple opportunities with working with both the borough and central to communicate the need for additional teachers should we need them. So right now, where we have worked with the borough and central, and together as a district, we have communicated that we are ready to open. There does remain a shortage of teachers in some places. We have made those recommendations to Central to hire those teachers. We also have some very dedicated teachers who are willing and able to kind of cross those boundaries between remote and in-school learning, where they are touching base with students during that time. There has also been conversation about if there is a shortage and a need for coverage, the most important and prioritized is making sure that there's coverages for students that are in school. We don't want any students left uncovered, and we don't want to have to combine students in any way, because remember we spoke about pods, where we want students to stay with the same group of students as much as possible. So our priority is to make sure that there's teachers in every classroom for students to welcome them back to school, and to make sure that we don't have the combining of classes in any way, and that we're ready for. We also have our fully remote classes, where those students were scheduled as well. And then if there are schools that do have areas where students aren't covered in the remote side of blended learning, those are some of the teachers that we are looking for. However, as I had said, in many of the District 25 schools, our teachers are checking in with those students. There is that connection to what they are learning when they are in school. And students are looking at student work, checking in with students, but the chancellor has asked that we pay close attention to make sure that we fill in those positions as well. So we have made a request through Central for 230 teachers, and principals have received funding from Central in order to fill those positions. We are working through Sub-Central, and we're making sure that any position that we do have is listed as a vacancy in Sub-Central. So the work that Central is doing around getting experienced teachers or people who are able to teach students are accessible to schools through Sub-Central.
Understood. However, the fact of the matter remains that there are vacancies on the remote instruction for those blended students. If the district needs 230 teachers, what does that mean for those students who are home on the days that they're not in live instruction? And are they not going to get live instruction? Correct? That's why we're here. Correct? I'm
So,
not.
right. So as you know, as a district, those that is an area that we are working on. But as I had said previously, there are teachers who are teaching in the blended model or even in the remote model that are working with those students.
Understood. Look, I'm going to just go off the topic for a second because Senator Lute had some issues with his Wi-Fi. He's back, so I want to give him the opportunity, and then we'll pick up. Senator?
Joe, I'm sorry, my home Wi-Fi cut out on me at the
It's okay.
worst possible moment, but it's back. And look, I don't want to detract from the topic because that's precisely why I wanted to sign on. This is a hot topic in District 25, as well as the rest of the city. District 25 does shine, as Danielle mentioned. It shines because of Superintendent DeMango. It shines because of the CEC members and the like the well over 100 parents that are engaged and in this meeting with us. So that's why it shines so well. But there are shortfalls, and there are shortfalls that I'm not here to mince words. Right? It's not the district's fault. It's actually I place the blame right at City Hall. For months, they knew they needed these new teachers. There's nothing new happened at the beginning of school. It's already been delayed twice. The mayor knew for 3 months at least how many teachers were going to be needed under the new plan, and they didn't get the teachers in place. So this is where we're at. Danielle and her team trying to do their best as possible with the resources they're given from downtown. And meanwhile, the topic of today's discussion, it's a discussion that needs to be had, is what about the remote learning? What about the remote learning for the blended students? What about the remote learning for the remote-only students? Because we have seen a much bigger proportion of parents. It was originally 20% who opted for remote-only, and now citywide, we're close to 50%. In our area, higher than the citywide average. So, I've spoken with de Blasio and told him that, look, I mean, I was rooting for him that schools would reopen and that remote would be completely underway, but he didn't make it. So last week I asked him to cut his losses and that, just don't try to start in person on the 21st, which is already a delayed date, but get all your ducks in a row. Make sure the remote learning is working for every student, because every student is on remote learning, whether they be remotely or half the time on average if they show blended. So I'm going to continue my pressure on de Blasio and Carranza to get the remote learning right, and also make sure that the buildings are safe and well equipped for in-person. But they got to ramp things up quickly. And so I want to thank you and the CEC for even calling this special meeting. Thank you, Danielle. I mean, this woman doesn't sleep, and she'd like to sleep, but she doesn't. So I'm as usual jumping in between different meetings, but I'm going to stay on for as long as I can, and Sujin Choi from my office will stay on for the whole meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So we really appreciate your effort in putting some pressure on the city. I do want to comment that a lot of parents have opted to go full-time remote solely on the fact that there is no, again, live instruction on the remote days for the blended students. So these parents have panicked and they said, I'm going to pull my child out and I'm going to put him or her into 100% remote. So I think that is also why you've seen a big uptake on the 100% remote instruction. I do want to make a comment before I start. I don't think that the best interests of the students were taken at heart in whatever negotiations were taking place, because the parents were not informed of this. All right, so they were just sprung onto this at the last minute, and a lot of parents still don't understand what that means. So we're here today. We'll discuss it. I know CEC members are quite concerned about it. I know there's discussion about preparing a possible resolution, calling to the city to renegotiate the deals with the UFT and the teachers, or perhaps to bring about live instruction. But our goal is for a rigorous education for our students. And, you know, we feel that live instruction is very important. So I'm going to move on with the meeting, and I thank you, Senator, as always. I appreciate that you're on. We have other members that are here. I don't want to, you know, take the floor for everyone else, but we're here to have a discussion. And is there someone else on the CEC that would like to comment? Anybody?
Can the parents say something?
Sure. So if you just could identify who you are, and then we'll, technically we're supposed to give you 3 minutes to speak. I don't want to be rude. I'll allow you to speak and we'll see how it goes. So go ahead. If you don't, would you like to identify?
Yes. My name is Junior Eli, and my son is 10, and he's in 4th grade, and the senator is here. So what I wanted to say is the fact that whatever preparation that was supposed to happen is already over. So I was suggested, like, you know, for the student that is at home, if you see, if they can help them, because you see the student that's gonna be, like, you know, in school, they're gonna be with the teachers. So do you think, like, you know, when the student that's doing the work in class, you know, while the teacher give them some work to do for a period of 30 to 40 minutes, and during that time, the teacher can multitask and log in and be live with the student that is at home, if you don't have like enough teachers until you get the proper staff, you know, to provide the service for the other student?
Are we talking about 100% full-time remote instruction?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think he's talking about live streaming as well. I think
Exactly.
Live streaming, correct?
Exactly. So they can have,
he's talking about
both ways. Yes.
right. Where if
Instead
there's
of,
not enough teachers, can it be live streaming where it can fill the gap in for the teachers that, you know,
exactly. Yeah, because I already see, like, you know, it's already too late for you to come up with certain solution. Right now, we can just make a little adjustment until you come up with a better plan to see, so all the students can receive the proper education and the service they need. You see what I'm trying to say?
I think I understand your concern. I believe it's school specific. I don't know if the superintendent wants to comment.
Yes, how are you, sir? I see Elizé's name. He's in 4th grade. Where is he going now?
He's in 107. The principal, she's a sweetheart. She's working very hard for the student. And one of the things, like, the parents who wanted, and me too, I wanted the same teacher that does the work with my son online when he goes to school, so they can receive the same proper, you know, education. If you switch teachers, because each teacher's got different, like, you know, way of teaching. And if your children is already used to one teacher, he doesn't have to keep, you know what I'm trying to say? So we were talking about that.
Yes, I know. And I know that you know Elizé very well and his learning needs. So it's very nice to hear you advocating for students. So good to hear from you. So I will say, you know, we've had discussions in the district about live streaming, and it is something that I do believe can happen and should happen at the school level. There has to be a lot of people in agreement around live streaming, and we still need to make sure that we are doing it in a way where it is safe, that, you know, people are not, you know, that we're protecting the rights of staff members as well as students around who's going to be on camera. So I do know that there has been discussions in planning and opening committees around that. And I also know that there has to be agreement from staff members as well as parents around live streaming. So as I get more information around that, I will share it.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. And I have one question for the senator. You don't mind take one of my question?
Senator?
Yeah, I'm right here, Elise.
Oh, Elise is my son.
We're
My
gonna
name
pass
is
a
Junior.
law. We're gonna pass a law, by the way, that prohibits people from seeing other people in Zoom if they don't show themselves.
Oh, no. My camera is not working.
If I had a nickel for every time I heard my camera's not working,
Sorry, next time you see me.
it's okay if you have a messy living room. All our living rooms are the same.
Okay. You see,
What's your question?
my question, I'm a city worker. I'm a public safety officer, and I work all the way in Manhattan. Before the coronavirus, you see, I used to have my son have after school program. But right now, with the way things is happening, I have to leave Manhattan to go pick him up. Is that a way you can talk to any people from the government to see for the people for the civil service that working for the city, if they can provide some child care for us? So during that time, if we cannot leave work, because my job, if they have an emergency, I have to stay. You see what I mean?
Elise, this is a big issue citywide. I don't want to take attention away from the topic of today's meeting because it's so critical. So why don't you type in the chat your phone number and I will call you tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. I will do that right now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, no problem. So I just want to make a point for Elise's father that we understand, that everyone understands. The CEC is not a school board. We cannot create solutions. We don't have that power. We only have the power to create a resolution that would go to the chancellor, the mayor, explaining our concerns and asking that some type of policy or some type of solution be done by them. So we as a CEC cannot create the solution, and our word does not go that far. We can create a resolution, and that's why we're here to discuss our concerns. So thank you for your concern. Thank you for your question. I see that Francis Gonzalez had a question. Francis, are you on?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I'm just listening. So are we saying that 100% remote has more live instruction than blended?
That is my understanding. Superintendent DeMango, can you comment on that?
So I do know that the city has put out recommended times for anyone who is on remote instruction to have what we call screen time, right? And we know screen time is what synchronous learning is, and then asynchronous learning is independent time where students will will work on tasks or assignments that come from either in-school instruction or as part of the fully remote. So we also know that there needs to be, and I don't want to say blended to confuse everybody, but a combination of both in order for students to have an independent learning experience that you would have seen mimicked in the classroom when we were not in a pandemic, right? So a teacher would teach a lesson, and then she would give students independent work time and group work time. So I think what's really important for parents to know is that you should have conversations with your child's teacher around what their classroom looks like and how much synchronous time is available to a student and how much asynchronous time is available to a student. But we do know that nobody wants to, and even ourselves can stay on a meeting for 2 hours and have your full potential of learning and hearing everything. So we do have time that is very similar to what we know happened in summer school, which did go very well. So our online summer school was a blend of both synchronous learning and asynchronous learning, where a teacher would come on and teach a lesson and then say, either work in your group in Zoom or work independently and come back at 10:30, right? So the teacher would teach from 8:30 to 9:15, and then allow students independent work time. So I think it's important that parents have that conversation with either your school administration or your child's teacher to see what that looks like, because there's not more or less. I think what we're talking about right now is, and what a lot of parents heard, is that there's not going to be asynchronous learning in the blended side of learning. I just want to be clear, the chancellor never said that. What we talked about was prioritizing staffing, right? To make sure that our remote learners who have chosen to go fully remote are fully covered, and that our blended was fully covered. And the priority of the blended was looking at students who are in school and making sure that they have teachers there when students are in school buildings. If there are, and not every school does not have teachers in the remote side of blended, but in some schools that is where our gaps lie, and that are the areas that we're trying to fill. But I do think it's important that it definitely is challenging, but I also think it's important that families have these conversations. I want to thank the CEC for this meeting tonight, but have conversations with your schools to see, like, what does my child's schedule look like? How much asynchronous time are they getting in if you are fully remote, and how much asynchronous time is scheduled, as well as the remote side of blended.
So Danielle, I have just to finish up the question. So I'm thinking that even if you're 100% remote, that there's still going to be times when it's not all live, just like in blended.
Yeah.
So then it should balance out, because I think parents thinking that they're going to get more live in 100, I think, and it should be that way, because no one wants to stay in front of a computer for 6 hours.
Correct.
No one does. So I just wanted to make sure, because I hear that too. Thank you. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Francis. Good to see you. Not see you, but
Good
see
to
you.
see you.
Hear you.
Thank you, Francis. Just one thing I wanted to point out. So the remote learners, whether or not it's times of having live instruction or not, they will have live instruction 5 days a week. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the issue is the blended students may not have live instruction 5 days a week. I know there are schools in our district that are prepared for that, but the reality is there may be 2 days a week or even 3 days a week where the blended students will not have live instruction at any time during that day until these positions are filled, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Joe, I have a question, Joe. So Danielle, so just a quick thing on that. So is it also school specific? Because there are some schools who does have staffing versus some schools who do not have adequate staffing. So it's not that all the schools are in this position, right? Some schools do have a staffing of having that blended remote portions of the blended learner covered better than the other school, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I also do want to say and speak specifically to District 25, and I always appreciate when Senator Lieu is on here, because he's cheering for District 25. He is a product of District 25. I love to say that. We were very, and I'm going to use the term aggressive in making sure that our teachers had access to training as soon as remote learning happened, and exposure to a lot of different tools to support them when it came to what teaching and learning looks like in a remote model. I also do want to say that we have a lot of teachers, many of our teachers, who have taken on these classes while waiting for hiring opportunities of other teachers. So I do know that programming has been a struggle because it is new for us, but I can say to you, there are many schools and many teachers who do understand both the importance of making sure that students have access to a teacher and synchronous learning when they are on the blended side of remote, but So we do want to be thankful for that, because there are many teachers in this district that are teaching fully remote in school and the blended side of remote. But yes, there are, and it does go by school very much, as you said, Rashmi, as well.
So there are, and I want to just touch more based on that. There are schools, there are many schools in our district where the blended students will have live instruction on the remote days. And that's because we have a fantastic group of teachers and we're in a great district, but we always have to look out for those students who are not as fortunate to have that type of instruction, and that's what concerns me. There are questions in the chat here. How are they going to fill these positions? So I understand, and I'm going to touch on something that might be a little bit unnerving, but we understand the city has furloughed 9,000 employees, okay? So how are they going to hire another 7,000 teachers in the city? I just don't see that happening, and that's the concern that a lot of parents have. But I do want to ask a question regarding, I don't want to take everyone's time if they don't have questions, but there are a lot of parents who are calling for the live streaming. And I don't seem to understand what the problem is with live streaming. I've seen on the news that Mulgrove has said it's not good education. Can someone explain why that is, or what's the problem with live streaming? Anyone? If you have
Amy Arundel's raising her hand. Do you see Amy? She's raising her hand.
No, I didn't see Amy. I'm sorry. Amy, go ahead.
I'm probably on some other screen, I know how these things work. Hello, everybody. I'm Amy Arundel. I am the Queensboro rep for the UFT. I work with Lamar. If Lamar will pardon me to jump in on this question.
You beat me to it. I was just going to hop in, but it's all yours. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry, Lamar. So I think our concerns about live streaming are twofold. One is whether or not, as a system, citywide, there is capacity for live streaming equitably across schools. And so that's a big concern. I'll tell you from a Queens perspective, we had a number of schools this week that their Wi-Fi completely stopped, dropped. And so if you build an educational strategy around live streaming in schools, and there is unevenness across schools in terms of access to Wi-Fi, or you're relying on something that is technological in that way, and the school doesn't have its Wi-Fi or its service that day, then that's going to have a negative impact, obviously, on serving students. So I think that's one, the technological question, and whether or not the system is really prepared to provide that. Secondly, live streaming is a concept. It's new. Brand new for a system like the Department of Education. And so again, do we know that the students who are at home watching a live stream, are they being engaged, or are they basically watching a video of a teacher teaching a group of students? And so while it might sound good in theory, there are the remote strategies, virtual strategies that teachers are using. And I'll tell you that I have a son who is in 4th grade, who is a New York City public school student, not in Queens, but New York City public school student. I see what's happening in breakout rooms. He's talking to his classmates. He's engaging with the teacher. Live streaming doesn't provide that. Live streaming is kids at home watching teachers teaching students in a classroom. And so if we can do better than that, we want to. And we want to be able to engage students more equitably. And so I'm not sure that I would say that Mulgrew is opposed across the board to the live streaming, but I think what he's saying is we're not prepared to just agree across the boards that live streaming is the solution to the staffing issues that the system currently, is faced with, and they're faced with those, as you've pointed out, the CEC chair has pointed out, has happened because of, lack of planning over time. So I don't think the door is closed completely on live streaming, but I think we have a lot of concerns about it. And we certainly want engagement and discussion at schools. And we do feel strongly that teachers have to be part of that decision-making process about whether or not live streaming is the right strategy for a particular school community. And, I am not the district rep of 25, Lamar is, and so I'm not going to speak about any particular school, but I can say from a very macro level, like a Queensboro level, some principals are better at engaging with their staffs and having conversations and kind of shared decision-making than others. And so there is a concern on our part that unilateral decisions around the use of this strategy, would be made, and that doesn't serve students either.
Thank you, Amy. So the question I have is, it's not even an option. I mean, is the UFT against live streaming? Because not everyone has to do it. It could be an option with the schools, but it's not even on the table. So the question I have is to the UFT is the UFT opposed to live streaming? Because we're not even given that option.
I think school by school, we will engage with school communities about live streaming. I don't think, it's hard for me to say, is it an option? I don't think that Michael Mulgrew has said it's not an option. What he's said is it's not something he's willing to agree to, is something that can be imposed. But the UFT has a very, long history of supporting school communities in innovation. And so if there's a school community that can demonstrate to us that they are working together and that there is teacher buy-in and that there is a real strategic plan around how to use this particular strategy to meet the needs of all the students, I'm not sure that we would say no to that school community. But we're not going to say yes across the boards because it's a new strategy that, quite frankly, as an educator and as a parent, I'm not 100% convinced is going to answer the concerns that I've heard tonight on the part of a number of parents, which is about, live instruction and engagement, because watching a class be taught by a teacher is not the same as live instruction. And so, you have to have a certain skill level to be able to teach a class of students and engage another group of students who are at home. And that requires some understanding of how to do both if you're going to really engage students. And some people might be in a very good position to do that and have experience or training or whatever the words are, and others do not. And then I would worry about the quality of the educational experience the kids are getting in that case.
So one of the parents in our chat, says it well. The strategy of blended learning is also a new strategy. So how do we know that's even going to work? I mean, this is all new stuff for all of us. So why not have all the options available? Does anyone else have any comments on the CEC or questions regarding this?
Yes, I have a comment. Oh, I do. Okay.
Go
Hello.
ahead, Tawana. Yes.
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
Okay, so
Tawana.
my comment is that I have a question regarding whether or not the UFT is being transparent, and I may have the wrong information, I may not. So if they can clarify for me, is there a restriction on allowing the teachers that are fully remote only to teach the blended learning students? Has that been restricted by the union?
There's no restriction per se, but there is an agreement. So there's an agreement between the UFT and the DOE with regards to what roles teachers are going to take on as we go forward this year. And as Joseph mentioned earlier, with the three, the idea is that teachers would focus on one particular role. So you're either the fully remote teacher, or you're the blended remote teacher, or you're the in-class blended teacher. There's no restriction, but there is an agreement. So with that agreement, both parties agree that this is the direction that we're going to provide the service for the students in the community. So I wouldn't necessarily say a restriction. I don't think that we necessarily have the jurisdiction to restrict or to, stop things from happening. But when negotiations happen, this is what is agreed upon. So that, I think, would be a more appropriate way of saying it. It was an agreement.
So my issue is, why were the parents left out of the planning process as far as what was best for our children?
So there are a lot of parent groups that are involved with these decisions. We don't necessarily go into these meetings without discussing with parents. Now, if you mean specifically parents of District 25, I can't answer that question. But I know that when meetings are had and conversations are had, parents are a part of the conversation. I can't give you a list of whom and from where, but parents are a part of that conversation.
So this is where I have a problem, because I was not, and we're on the CEC, so we represent the parents. We were not part of that conversation. The other problem we have is this created a whole shortage of teachers, right? So it just created more problems.
I just,
Go ahead. Who's that? I'm sorry.
I had a question or comment,
Christine, go ahead.
Joe. So, hi everyone, good evening. My question is kind of to
Christine's on the
piggyback.
CEC. Christine, identify who you are, please.
Oh, hi, my name is Christine Caniglio. I'm Vice President on the CEC with Joe and the rest of the team here. So I'm kind of piggybacking off what Joe said. I just want clarity. Why can't, what are the parameters of why a teacher can only teach remote, only teach blended, and only teach the in-person, like what, how did that decision come about? Why was it that certain teachers were teaching certain things, and that's what I want to understand as a parent.
so
Can you explain that?
if I may try to explain kind of the construct of the agreement. So when we think about what we worked with the Department of Ed and the CSA to think about is, what does it mean to staff a school in with social distancing? All right. So we have two groups of students, essentially. We have students who are full remote and they're at home and they're not coming into the building. And then you have a group of students who are coming to school in a socially distant way, which means we have to reduce the number of students in the classrooms, right? So from its very inception, the thought that the concept of our students attending school with social distancing in and of itself required more teachers. The needing of more staff happened as soon as the system, the mayor, the system decided we want to open schools, but we have to open them under the constructs of social distancing, right? We go from having 32 students in a class at a time to having 8 to 10. So that's a third of the students, right? So from the get-go, the goal of opening schools for September was going to require more teachers because we couldn't have class sizes of 32 every day. We had to have class sizes much smaller, right? The second problem with a hybrid model, or the second challenge that the hybrid model presents, is who instructs students while they are at home? Because now you don't have 32 students coming into school, you have 8 to 10 in school, and then you have 12 at home. So now you need teachers who are instructing in school, the students in front of them, and then you have students who need to be instructed when they are not in school. So the reason there's 3 positions is because remote students, full remote students, are not coming into school at all. So we're trying to provide some kind of continuity of instruction, right? Some kind of, a sense of a Monday through Friday plan for what a student is going to learn in a particular week. So that's why there's 3 positions. Now, that's not the only model that could have been selected. For example, we could have agreed, we being the UFT, the DOE, CSA, the 3 parties could have thought a better model would be that every class has one teacher who provides both in-person and remote instruction, but then that teacher would teach fewer students or fewer classes. Now we talk a lot about, we think a lot about elementary school, but I just want to point out that in middle school and high school, teachers have 5 classes that they teach. So it's a little easier to consider an elementary school teacher doing both. But I just want to point out, like, if I have students all day in live and in person, I have part of my class live and in person, and I'm both the remote and the in-person teacher, what happens to the students at home while I'm instructing live? And I think the blended remote teacher was an attempt to give blended students continuity of instruction over the course of a week, because of the nature of social distancing. Like, my son is going to school 2 days a week, then 1 day a week, then 2 days a week, right? So he's only going to be in school with his teacher 2 days a week, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, which means on the day he's in school 1 day a week, for 4 days a week, he's basically remote. So why is the construct to separate full remote students from hybrid students? I think for organizational purposes, because there's a difference in the instruction that they're receiving. And so, I understand the frustration. I'm a parent with a student who I have not put into full remote yet because my son very much wants to go back to school and be in school. And I share with everybody the concerns about what happens when he's not in school. Like, I get that completely, 100%. What I would like to say to people, though, is from its inception, social distancing required more teachers.
Right, and I understand that concept, but how does this work with the curriculum? So now you have a teacher teaching remotely, a blended student per se. So you have the class that's in person is being taught by Miss Smith on Monday and Tuesday. Now they're remotely being taught by Miss Jones. How is that? How does that work as with the curriculum for the kids? I mean, are they being taught the same thing? Are the teachers collaborating together? How is that continuity good for the students? Now they're going from one teacher who they're learning with 2 days, and now they're teaching with another teacher for 2 days, and then they have to go back to the other teacher. I'm not sure that that's in the best interest of all the students.
I mean, I'm not the only one who can speak to this. I think Danielle probably can speak to it as well. What I will just say from a theoretical perspective is that what was negotiated was a coordination period every day. And the purpose of the coordination period is for the teachers who are remote and who are in person to talk together and to plan. And so it's not outside the realm of possibility that teachers would work together. They would decide, what are we going to teach this week? What are you going to cover? What am I going to cover? In what order are we covering this? What are you doing in person? How am I supporting that remotely? Like, I'm talking theoretically.
Right, and I understand that, but we all know that every teacher teaches differently. And, you know, so I think that especially in the younger school, in the younger grades, I think that having one teacher, just say math, for instance. So one teacher is teaching it a certain way. I understand they were all supposed to teach it the same way, but they might have strategies and tricks that might help students. You know, especially students with special needs. And I'm not talking about, you know, District 75. I'm talking about students that have an IEP that learn on a different level from general ed students. So you have a teacher that's teaching one way, Monday and Tuesday in person. Now, Wednesday and Thursday, those kids go home and they're being taught by a different teacher who's using totally different strategies. And let's be honest, 95% of the parents have no clue what any of the teachers are teaching when it comes to new math. Okay, I think I can guarantee everybody on the CEC agrees with me. We're all totally lost and we need tutors. So how are we supposed to support our students when they're so totally confused having all these different teaching models? I just don't think, and I think what the frustration of the CEC parents is that were these things all taken into consideration? When UFT was sitting down, were they listening? Yes, I understand they might have been people at the table, but was UFT and the DOE actually listening to parents? Being at the table and hearing what they say.
She knows her meeting, showing her address.
Exactly.
Her mailbox.
I'm sorry, can you please mute yourself?
Yeah, so,
So Christine, your point is well taken. I agree. I think Anne Marie wanted to make a comment, but just to Amy, look, there are schools in our district where the third category of teachers does not exist, but they are in fact teaching on those remote days to the blended students. Well, they're willing to do that. So, I just think that the UFT or whoever created this third category of teachers, which created another, vacancy that needs to be filled. And who's going to suffer? The students are going to suffer.
I just do have to say, this is not the UFT's creation. This was something that was agreed to by the DO and the UFT, and I hear you that you have concerns about the model, but this is not the UFT's creation alone.
I understand, and the UFT did their job right because they are advocating on behalf of the teachers. The question I have is, who was advocating on behalf of the students? I don't know if anybody was advocating on behalf of the students.
Joe, can I just respond to Christine's statement? And
yes.
I do want to thank Amy for being here. I know that she's really letting us know about the different models and is able to speak well to them. But I want to speak specifically to District 25, just in terms of something that we've spoken about over some of our meetings in the CEC, is that so District 25 has had a long history of collaboration and communication of teachers in teacher teams. So we have spent about approximately 7 years really mastering communication and collaboration around the standards. and especially with the next generation standards, we've been working on them for over a year. So we've really solidified rigorous, standards-based units of study. And yes, I do hear you, Christine, that everybody teaches differently. And people have different nuances to instruction, but the important thing for you guys to know is there is time carved out every day for teachers to meet. So we already have those solid foundations around curriculum and instruction aligned with the training, and we're only scratching the surface, right? Because we have so much more work to do in supporting our teachers and teaching remotely, because it is a new concept. But we have that foundation around what solid curriculum would look like. So I am confident in any school that we go into, you could ask principals and teachers that every year, both myself and Dr. D'Antona visit schools twice, and we spend a tremendous amount of time analyzing units of study and tasks and observing instruction and giving feedback to both principals and teachers around seeing that. I am confident that in that time that is given to teachers, that they can plan out what the week will look like, because the commonality is this is a unit of study that we know well, and that in many cases, because we have such a wide range of diverse learners, both English language learners as well as special education students, that there are, although teachers have different nuances, they can pull from those rigorous units of study, and there will be similarities in how instruction is delivered because of our strong units of study. So I just want to talk about that in terms of District 25. That
No, and I just want to be clear. I mean, I don't have a problem with my particular school, because my school happens to be, I could say it, one of the best in District 25. That's my principal's on, so. But I'm just thinking about the elementary schools and parents that have approached me with what's going on. And I know that a lot of our schools do work very well. We have, great support systems. Our principals really support a lot of our teachers, but there is frustration from some of the parents. And I think a lot of it is not them not understanding the whole, I don't know, the model. And exactly, it's not really clear to a lot of the parents what exactly is happening. And I think that is causing more frustration and more confusion amongst parents as to what exactly is happening. So I think it's great that you're talking about the teachers are setting time together to sit down and go over it, because I think that's helpful for us as parent leaders to bring back to the communities that the teachers are not blindly teaching. I don't want to say blindly, but they are collaborating together almost as if they were ICT teams working together. And I think that's an important component that
every day. But every day for for a carved out amount of time. That was part of the.
Yeah, I think that's great, and that's great information we can bring back, because I don't think a lot of parents understood that. So I will definitely relay that back to all my constituencies, that is happening, so that they feel more secure.
As a parent, can I say something?
Who's speaking? Sorry.
Elise,
Mr. Elise, yes. I just want to give the opportunity. I know there are a lot of parents who have raised their hands. I want to give everyone an opportunity. If you could be brief, I'll let you speak.
Okay. The thing about it is just like Miss Danielle and with the other principal that I know, which is great, Mr. Groff, and I know they has already working hard to put something in place. And this is a new model. Can instead of going what is already putting in place, can we just send an email to each parent and tell them for the next 2 months to pay attention to that model that's already in place, and to see if it works for them, and we can come with what we think is good for us, for our children, because at the end of the day, it's our child. And if we have to make adjustment So we just have another meeting like this with the district, with the teachers and everything. We talk about the pro and con, and after we just make adjustments so we can have a better job, from the next year. You see what I'm trying to say? Is it possible?
Understood, and that's why we're having this meeting, to perhaps call for a resolution for an adjustment on the policy that was created. So I thank you for that.
Yes.
I want to move on because I don't want to exclude anybody. I think Anne Marie Knable had some question or comment. She's on the CEC. Identify yourself, Anne Marie.
Hi, Anne Marie Knable here from the CEC member. I guess I'm not understanding the difference between what the teachers are doing now when they go live with the kids daily and what you're considering live stream. I consider what they're doing with the kids already live stream, and it's with the kids that are both remote and blended. And they have a class session, and then they go offline and they do their work, and then they come back and they have another class session, they go back and they do their work. I don't see the difference. We'll bring it into the professional at work. I run a Zoom meeting. I have participants that are on in other locations. They're still able to comment. They're still able to raise their hand like we're doing here. I don't understand how this wouldn't translate into the classroom with the kids being together, whether they're home or in school. I guess I'm missing where the impossibility is. Does that make sense?
If I may, as a practitioner, if I have 8 to 10 students in front of me, particularly in this moment where they're socially distanced, we have to be very mindful of how we ask them to engage with one another. Your full attention is going to be on the people on the students in front of you. And so, quite frankly, I feel the opposite to you in terms of thinking about how I would manage engagement of students in front of me, who I have to make sure maintain social distance, keep their masks on, help them cope with a new classroom environment and teach them. So a lot of the strategies that teachers have been using for many years now, we have to adjust in this moment. Turn to your partner, work in a group of 4, those kinds of things we have to adjust because now they're social distancing. Now they're facing front. Now they have masks on. So we have a lot to attend to for those 8 to 10 students in front of us. And then the expectation that while we're attending to that, we're going to be able to engage in an equal way with students on a Zoom, quite frankly, from a practitioner's point of view, is not a realistic expectation. So what's going to happen, and in what you're calling a live stream, is that the students at home are going to watch mostly what's going on in the classroom. Certainly that's going to happen for a while until the teacher figures out how to manage, because we don't have the technology. We don't have big, huge, we have smart boards, but do we have the ability to put up on those smart boards everybody on the Zoom? We're making a lot of assumptions about, how easy live streaming might be. And quite frankly, to make it a true educational experience, I think there's a lot of work that has to be done to make live streaming engaging for the students at home.
So how is that different from what they're doing now? They're doing that now when they're having their live sessions every day. Isn't that what the teacher's doing already?
They don't have a group of students, but they don't have a group of people who are in person in front of them. Everybody is on the Zoom. I'm sitting, just like I'm sitting here talking to you. If I had 6 people in this room that I had to manage, not adults who sit quietly and wait their turn and have their hand up, but students, right? I have 6 people in front of me. I'm looking out. I'm talking to the people here. I have to look here. I have to talk here. I have to pay attention to here. I have to do breakout groups here. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that it's not something that is intuitive. It's not something that every teacher can just do. And so I don't believe it's in the interest of kids, quite frankly, Mr. DiBenedetto, I think a lot of what we've tried to negotiate is about students, not about adults, quite frankly, especially as somebody who is both a parent, and a teacher. It's easy to say things, and that's what the mayor does. He makes tons of promises to the public. We have to implement those promises with fidelity. We have to know that what we're doing is going to have a positive impact on students. And so what I'm saying is live streaming sounds great. I'd like to go visit a Long Island district and see exactly what they're doing. A lot of Long Island schools are just having kids come in, by the way. They're not doing social distancing or anything. So I think there are a lot of comparisons to Long Island that I would hesitate to use, although I'm happy to go to Long Island and see how they might be using live streaming. I'm just saying to you that I'm not convinced in this moment that live streaming solves the problem that I hear parents raising in this meeting in terms of engagement of their children in education. I'm telling you that as a practitioner and as a mother. I am telling you that. I'm not saying we're opposed to it. I'm just saying that it would be easy for us to just say, yes, let's do it, if we really didn't care about whether or not students are engaged.
Okay, honestly, I don't feel you answered my question, because I'm not just forcing live stream. That's not my thing. And I don't know about the Long Island districts. I'm just saying, looking at what I have observed with the teaching live stream right now, and I'm calling it live stream for whatever live they're doing every day.
That's not live streaming. We're not talking about the same thing.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking, what is the difference between what they're doing now and what you would consider live stream? Because a teacher and a parent and anyone in that forum, you're going to watch your class, whether they're in front of you or on Zoom. You're still going to be distracted by the kids getting out of their seat or doing this. That's part of the class and the way kids are in general. I get that.
In remote learning, there are remote learning strategies. So when a person is teaching 100% remote students, they can use all the strategies available to them through Zoom, Nearpod. There's all kinds of things that they use. They can break students into breakout groups, but all of that takes a great deal of time and energy, time and organization, I should say, right? So when I hear live streaming, what I associate with live streaming is I'm teaching a live class with people in front of me, and at the same time, there is a camera on me that people are watching from a distance. That's what I consider live streaming. Like, I watch musicians live stream. What do? They play music, there's a camera, they're playing music, and people all over the world are watching that musician while they play music live. That's what I think of as live streaming. So when we think about live streaming for educational purposes, it's that the teacher is teaching their class that's in front of them while there's a camera trained on them that kids are watching them teach from home.
They're watching in the classroom or watching at home.
Right.
That's not happening. Remote teaching is not kids watching teachers teach. It's actual teaching.
I understand your position, and I just want to clarify something. Live streaming is just an option, okay? I think we're talking not about live streaming, but live engagement with the students. That's what it boils down to. It's on these remote days for these blended students. Is there going to be engagement, either one-on-one or as a class, but live engagement? Or is it all going to be just looking at a video or just doing an assignment? It boils down to the engagement. So I apologize. Maybe I did that by saying live streaming. That's an option. We're talking about live engagement.
Right. And I think that is something that we are working on as a district in this new world that we're scheduling for. One of the things that I'm I'm looking forward to, and we've said this to a lot of the principals too, is to go through next week and possibly the week after, and then bring the community together again, meeting staff and parents at the school level. And I've heard a lot of that tonight, and I think that's a really important thing that I'm going to take back and speak to schools. And I know a lot of our principals and teachers are on here too, around that. We have to talk about that and what students' responses are to the different models that we're doing, and what's that best model. And as Amy has also said, I don't think anything is off the table right now, but there does need to be a clear and strategic school plan that everyone is part of, including parents, and all the better way at the school level to get your SLT and different parent groups, your PTA or any kind of subcommittees on PTA, to just kind of get together with as a community and say what works best for our students. So it's nice to hear that nothing is off the table. We can be creative and innovative, and that's what District 25 is known for, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, Joe,
Go ahead.
I'm Mary Ellen Byrne. I'm one of the principals. Can I speak?
Good evening, Principal Byrne. Nice to see you.
So I just would like to explain from our point of view. So for the last 3 months, principals have been planning very strategically. You must have instruction before you can really have blended learning. What happened to us this week is that we were to start school on September 21st, Group A, with instructional learning in the building, 5.5 hours. When that was changed on Thursday, and it was announced that remote learning will begin on Monday, it became a little impossible to have every student on an A day, because blended learning follows instruction. So if your child was in a group B, they didn't know who their teachers were yet. They didn't know who was going to do the blended learning. And parents were calling period 1, where is my child's instruction? So I'm asking you, and I know every principal out there is saying, we are ready for this. So if you give us this week, when the A group comes in, they're going to have instruction. When they are home, B days, in most schools, because of the teachers and the lack of teachers, the same teachers will be teaching your children at home in a blended environment. Blended means, and I can tell you from my school, if my teacher teaches 701, 703, and 704, those students are going to be brought together on a B day, and the teacher will see them on both Thursday and Friday. Now, does every child have to be on the entire time? No. Will the teacher give asynchronous work for them to do? Yes. But the teachers will be present for your child. It's not, the teachers don't have the luxury of having 45 minutes with every group every day.
Principal Byrne.
Because, can I just say one more thing? Because remotely, right? Remotely, these same teachers, not only are they teaching Group A and blended, but I know in my school, because of numbers and wanting to meet the needs of all children, we are also teaching remotely. But the chancellor has said to us that 80 minutes to 100 minutes a day. So it's very possible if your child chose remotely or you chose remotely, you will have science and English on one day, math and social studies on another day, and with a live teacher.
So,
however, the subjects that aren't covered will have to be done asynchronously.
So we acknowledge that, and we truly appreciate your school because it's one of the great schools, as there are other great schools in our district who are doing the same thing. But it's my understanding that that is not part of the agreement, right? Your school is doing it different from the other schools. And
it's
again,
not part of the agreement, but teachers are dedicated and they want to make it work for parents.
And we applaud you. We certainly do. What I am speaking on the behalf of those unfortunate students who don't have that luxury. In other words, it's not every school in our district and not across the city. So that's the concern, because we would hope that all the other schools in our district and in the city would follow what you are following and what my daughter's school is following. But it's not for everyone. And that's
not in our district. Are you sure? Because our district, we have high expectations and they keep getting higher, right, Mr. Mango? And we keep stepping up to the plate.
Yeah. But if there's one school where it's missing, then, those students should be heard. And unless Superintendent DeMango is telling me 100% of our schools are in the same category, then we don't need to have this meeting.
Joe, I just want to make a comment. Hi, this is Victor from DC District 25. I'm the reporting secretary. I just want to comment back on the live streaming action. I think what we're looking at is that as an option for live streaming is not to be the only solution, but really what we are trying to say is that comparing to live streaming versus asynchronous learning where people are not engaged in all versus live streaming, that live streaming would be a better platform to implement than a asynchronous 3 days of asynchronous learning where there's no engagement involved. That we prefer at least the visual of seeing the teacher in action is a better result than actually having instruction remotely for 5 hours. I think that's what we're trying to say as a comparison, not to say that that is the option that we want to go to. That's my comment.
Anyone?
I think, Joe, that's what I was going to say too. Someone lowered my hand.
Go ahead. Hannah, I see you raise your hand. I'm only because you're coming on my screen here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I was texting with another friend of mine who's also watching that I think on the days off, it would be more productive since during, now that we're working from home, in our experience, the moms are really doing a lot of the teaching. We're answering a lot of the questions. We're going through lessons if they don't understand something. We're uploading things and helping them type if they have a long answer to type, especially for like second grade. They have more ideas than they can type. I also have a fourth grader, so their schedules are not quite the same. So on the days that they will be at home, I think it would almost be better to not be required to be on a computer with another teacher, and it would be more beneficial for the kids to have some asynchronous learning, some lessons online, whatever, and then have these forms to fill out and have the homework to do and just have them do it on their own.
Very good point. Thank you. Did anyone else have a comment from the CEC first?
Mr. DeBenedetto, could I speak for a minute? It's Ms. Tratner from PS 193.
Good evening, Ms. Tratner. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
You don't really want to see me in my Rocky Mountain t-shirt and my hair back, but okay. I didn't expect to do this. So, I'm listening to what everybody's saying, and I think the one thing we can all agree on is this is by no means the perfect situation that we're all in. And I feel like there are advantages and disadvantages to each model. And if you're a full remote student, yes, you have the luxury of having one teacher every day. However, it's remote, and that's the fact. if you're blended, it appears, you might say that these kids don't get as much because they're in school for part of the time and then home for part of the time. But I look at the time when they're home as the continuation of the learning that they did in school. And the benefit of them being in school for a day, for 2 days, for 3 days is so important to these kids. They are craving to be back in a school environment. So they may be in school less, but they're getting equal to, in a different way, what the remote children are getting, in my opinion.
I agree. Personally, I agree with you, Ms. Stratner. And I believe a lot of parents also agree. I have Vice President of Education, Mary Vaccaro, who's on and wants to make a comment. Are you there, Mary?
I didn't have to make comments. I was on.
I was told you wanted to comment. I'm sorry.
No. I am happy to comment, but Amy Arundel, who is our great borough rep, I think has articulated it the best, that the teachers are trying to do the best job that they can. They have been trained in curriculum. They have been working really hard. I know Lamar Hughes, your district rep, has really worked hard in order to make sure that our teachers have attended training and have participated in that. And I know Superintendent Domingo has been great at that, of making sure our teachers participate in as much as they can. And we're going to continue that. I mean, obviously, live streaming is not something, and I agree with Amy completely on this. As a mom, I personally, and I have made this public statement, I haven't let my own child last year, who was a senior in high school, do any live streaming. I wrote to his school, and he did not participate in any live streaming. I personally, on a personal level, I'm not speaking for the union, on a personal level as a mom, I felt that was not a positive way for him to go. And I agree with the mom. I think it was Hannah. I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. I saw this pop up on the screen. But the mom that spoke and said that, the asynchronous work would be a really positive piece. And one thing that I can defend the DOE for, and there's not many things I could defend the DOE for, but I think Amy and Lamar would agree with me on this, that the DOE on Teach Hub has used a lot of, they've had a lot of pieces on Teach Hub that teachers can put up asynchronously. And we have really been pleased with the work that they have placed up there, that it's rigorous instruction and teachers are prepared for that. And I guess hopefully this won't go on forever, and this is not the new normal, as everyone is saying, but we are more than sure that our teacher center people and the UFT will continue training our teachers. But I will tell you, on the DOE's defense, on this one item, not on many items, Joe, as you know, but on this one item, they have provided enough curriculum that teachers should be prepared, whether they're live, whether they're blended, or whether they're remote. And just one piece that I want to throw out, and I think Amy said it, but I think it's worth saying again, is that we were very clear. And so Lamar said it, this is an agreement, but it doesn't mean that we didn't state to the Department of Ed that there would be a staffing problem by doing this. So we told them over and over for over 6 weeks that this was going to be a staffing problem. And, maybe it went on deaf ears, maybe there are changes coming, but that's just something to think about, that, we can make an agreement, but it doesn't mean we're not agreeing with all of you, all of the moms and dads on this, that there is a staffing issue.
Thank you, Mary. And we do thank the UFT, and we do thank the teachers as well, because we know everybody's working really hard at making this happen. We are definitely in uncharted waters. We don't know. The unknown is making everybody very anxious. I know everyone is working really hard, but I have to tell you that parents feel that there's no transparency. They just feel that they're not kept in the loop, right? So I understand what your personal opinions are regarding live streaming, but there are parents who are calling for it. So that's why I bring it up today. I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that the main goal for everyone who's involved are the students, right? In education, and a good education. So that's what the parents really want to project out there. And I think they need to be convinced that the best interest of the students, of all students, are taken into consideration. There are issues with parents that are 100% remote that they still don't have answers to. Some of the classrooms are very large, so there may not be that one-on-one engagement that they had anticipated. So there are a lot of questions out there, and I'm not here to blame anybody. I'm not. I just want us to all try to work together and try to come up with a solution that benefits what it's all about, and it's our kids.
Hi, Mrs. Benedetto. It's George Carter from 79. Can I jump in?
Principal Carter, nice to see you. Yes.
Yes, please forgive my casual attire. I just want to speak as both a principal and a parent. Listen, I have 2 young boys. I feel the fear that everyone's feeling. And the one thing I would say about District 25 and my colleagues, both the teachers and the principals, is we're going to figure this out. We will find a way, and I get it. This is nerve-wracking. And I'm going to be quite frank, until we get the kids in the building next week, we don't exactly know how this is going to go. And I'm sure it's going to be messy, and it's going to take us adapting and adjusting. But we can all say, I do speak for Mr. Mango and the principals on this, we're going to find a way. It may be bumpy in the beginning, it may be messy, but we will always put the kids first, and we will find a way. I know there's a staffing, sorry, my dog is going crazy in the background. I know there's a staffing crisis, and there are many challenges ahead of us, but we will find a way. And I feel like the parents, I feel like we have built the trust with the community in District 25 that we always do put the kids first. And I know, Lamar will tell you, like, sometimes you hear these things with the union and this and that. We all put that, when it comes to the kids, we put all that aside. The agreement is the agreement. How we got here, we got here. We'll find a way to make it work, and we'll be creative. We'll work with our UFT partners. We'll work with Mr. Mango and Dr. D'Antona, and we will find a way.
Thank you, Principal Carter. Go ahead, Rashmi.
I think there is somebody who has raised hand for a long time. I don't know, on the chat. I just wanted to.
Okay, so I'm not, it's hard for me to follow the chat and the discussion. So I appreciate your help, Rashmi. So,
yeah, that's why I'm helping you.
Thank you, Rashmi. Can you tell me who that is?
I think it's Miss Elisa Wheeler.
I just sent that to you on your phone, Joe.
Oh, Alyssa Wheeler. Are you here, Alyssa?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hi. I'm a parent, and first and foremost, thank you everyone for all of your work. And I know it's hard, and we are definitely kind of in a new environment. And so as a parent, I personally struggle. I work full time, and so one of my biggest concerns, I do understand having kids do it on their own time, that works, but not for all families. Over this past week, one of the biggest things that I really appreciate has been the live instruction. Every day, my daughter just entered 6th grade, and every day she's with a teacher, almost from 8:30 to 2. Sometimes they let out a little early, but there's engagement. She's there, they're asking questions, and there are a lot of students, but when she was doing when we first started and they were getting assignments to do on their own time, when it was pre-recorded lectures, there was no real engagement. Teachers were there and they were available when she needed, but she wasn't getting that support. She wasn't really learning. She almost got completely disengaged with school. So having the teachers and her fellow students there has been really exciting for her to wake up in the morning and get online and see her peers and see her teachers. When they're pre-recorded, it's just not the same, and not all families have the ability to support the kids doing those pre-recorded lectures or submitting their assignments. And so when the teachers are there, it makes a really big difference. That's my comment.
Joe, you are muted.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. I'm sorry, I was muted. I agree with some of your points, and I appreciate that your honesty, and I appreciate you making the point. I didn't want to cut off Principal Deborah Cassidy. I'm looking at the chat here, and she's talking about something called flipped instruction. Are you there? Deborah Cassidy?
I'm here.
Do you want to comment?
Yes, I just had some issues with the phone. I'm just, all right. So one thing that one of the principals said to me that really made a lot of sense to me, I'm not going to take credit for it, is to think about the blended instruction as a flipped model, where when the children are together at home in a large classroom, they're learning instruction like as a whole class. And when they come to school with social distancing, it's a real opportunity for small group instruction. So a lot of, as a parent and a grandparent now, one of the things I always was wondering about is how much can my kids learn when there's 31 other children with them? Your children now have an opportunity to be in small classes with a lot of individualized attention. That is a gift that you will never have again in your lives. Having 8 or 9 other children in the class gives a teacher an opportunity to really understand what every child needs and to create instruction that is targeted to each group. Then on the days that they're home, they will learn basically the way that they learned traditionally, but they will never ever have an opportunity again to have these small groups. And personally, I think this is something that's going to teach us, this experience is going to teach us how to teach kids better. We're all on a journey here. We've had the same type of instruction for hundreds and hundreds of years. This is forcing us to think about instruction differently. And yes, it's tough. And I agree with George Carter. I believe so much in District 25. I believe in the teachers of District 25. I know that their hearts are first and foremost with the children. And I can speak about that in our school at 24. I have never seen more hardworking people, and I'm sure every principal would say the same thing about their staff. And I understand as a parent, I was a big PTA person, transparency is really important. And maybe that's the part that we need to do better at. But I can guarantee, and I think every principal can guarantee, that your children will learn, and they will learn well this year. And it's thanks to the leadership we have from the district office. So I hope that makes sense. I know that all principals are available, that they want to meet with our parents. We are here for you. And we love your children so very much. We don't want to fail them, because we take every time, anything that they don't know, we take as a personal failure. So we will find a way, George. I agree with you. We will find a way. That's all I have to say.
Principal Cassidy, well said, and we thank you. And listen, personally, I want to thank, and on behalf of the CEC, all the principals in our district. I know how hard they have been working. I've seen them on all of our CEC meetings. They are here tonight. They're commenting this evening. We really appreciate that, and it really goes to, to the heart of, what's important, and we appreciate your time. We understand what you're saying is, but maybe the parents need to understand that there is flexibility in what the policy is to make things work. And if the parents understand that, then maybe it'll work out, right? I cut off Principal Byrne before, and I apologize. Are you still on, Principal Byrne?
Yes, but
sorry if
I'm sure that I said plenty. Thank you.
All right.
I said enough. Thank you.
I thank you always.
Right, Danielle? No.
So, it's not going to be easy. I don't know if there's any other CEC representative that wants to make a comment right now.
Joe, this is Deborah Rico from PS32.
Principal Deborah Rico, nice to see you.
I didn't plan on speaking either, but I felt like after hearing all of my colleagues, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out the wonderful supportive leadership of District 25, under the direction and guidance of Danielle Domingo, Dr. Dantona, all of the support from the district office, and of course our CEC. We are really blessed that we are in an amazing district. And I think that we can't lose sight of the idea that we are all faced with a pandemic that none of us have asked for, and we are all trying to figure out this hopefully not new normal and trying to do our best for children. And if we keep that at the forefront, which we all do here, we will make sure that whatever it takes, we will band together and, you know, our children will get the best of everything. So, you know, I thank everybody for their dedication, for their support. And, you know, again, as George Carter said, we have to wait till these babies come in. We can't wait to see them. And we're really, it's going to be bumpy, but we're going to get through it because we're going to do it together. And I think we need to continue to remember that none of us have faced this before. And if we continue to look with, you know, great foresight about what this could be, I think we might find things that we never knew existed, because we've done things in a certain way for so long, that there may be things that we discover through this new learning and we can embrace. So thank you all, and can't wait to see the kids.
Thank you, Principal Deborah Rico. So yes, go ahead, Lamar.
Can I wrap this up, Joe, if you don't mind, everybody?
Sure.
All right, so
those in the community who don't know who you are. Lamar
sure.
Hughes?
So for those who may not know, if I didn't introduce myself earlier, my name is Lamar Hughes. I am the district rep for the UFT district rep for District 25. So I was on throughout the duration. I did, you know, speak sometime earlier, but I just wanted to wrap up and share to everyone, particularly to the parents, that we understand the concerns and the frustrations and everything that's being said today and what you want to express going forward with your child's school year. We understand. We all understand. We all hear you. At our core, we're teachers. My educational background is not in labor union. It's in education. I'm a teacher first and foremost, and I'm a parent. So I thoroughly understand where the concern lies and what the issues are. To that end, we would love to just engage in open dialogue with you within our district, so that we can have some clarity on what the school year looks like. You know, context is key. So we definitely want to make sure that the proper language is said in conversation about what's going on with, you know, with education, live streaming versus live instruction. There is a difference, and we want to make sure everybody's on the same page with that, right? We also, we have plenty of information to share, and plenty of people that we can get you in touch with, so that we will provide you with information to know how to go forward this year. We all have your children's interest at heart, every single one of us. The UFT without question does. So we just want to make sure that, you know that we can be a person, an entity that you can reach out to. I will leave my email address in the chat room in case anyone feels the need to get in contact with me and ask questions. And thanks very much for the time. I do really appreciate hearing from you all. I know there's nothing wrong with having passionate discussions and passionate debates. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think if you get to an end place where you can keep the dialogue going, then that means that, you know, we can create further headway and we can create further, you know, further camaraderie and such. So I just wanted to make sure everybody gets that. And there are a couple of things that I'd like to share with you at all, but I'm going to pass to Joe, and hopefully, Joe, you can pass on to the CEC and pass on to parents as well.
Thank you, Lamar, and we appreciate your willingness to collaborate with us, and we will certainly convey to you our concerns.
No problem.
So we appreciate that. Thank you very much. So I want to move on to whether or not anyone on the CEC would like to discuss any other matter pertaining to our special meeting.
Yes, I have one other issue that is fairly new.
Tawana, identify yourself so everybody knows who you are.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Tawana Rivera, second vice president on CEC 25. And I have a question regarding the remote for the blended or remote fully, for the children that are in the meeting, how do we address the issue of someone intercepting a meeting? Just recently, my son, I apologize, I wasn't able to reach out to his school. He's a student at Bell Academy. I wasn't able to reach out to the school because I've been very busy, of course, in the house. But there was someone during several sessions of his class joining the meeting and playing music. And the teacher kept removing whoever it was, but they kept rejoining the meeting and distracting the students. And I'm trying to find out if there's a way that we can make it so that the host can only allow in who was originally invited. And I guess once the class has started, you can't leave and rejoin.
So Tawana, thank you for that question. So we are working very closely with DIIT and making sure that our teachers are trained in exactly what you are talking about. And we also are very blessed and lucky to have Louis Latito, who is a technology guru and is always there for principals to reach out when situations like that do happen. Just today, we had a meeting with principals and we talked about not admitting people who you do not know. Now, we know that some students who may not have devices yet may not come up with students' names, but we asked our schools to have clear communication streams with families to say, if you need to come in as someone else, you need to let the school know in advance. So those things cannot happen. In certain situations, such as the one that you are discussing, the schools, as part of the orientation that they did, were very clear about proper ways to behave in the virtual classroom world. And we do manage it very carefully and quickly. So in those cases, we are able to identify who is doing certain things when they are students. So I think that is something that each school is working on as a community, in the same way that we as adults we work together to hold meetings such as this. The expectations are the same for our children. So the other thing that we also said today is that we ask all of our teachers to ensure that they are the last ones to leave the meetings as well. So students are asked, when a teacher ends a class, we ask students to leave the meeting, and they do need to wait until every student leaves, because we don't want anyone else lingering in an unsupervised meeting. So we're working on that and making sure that all of our teachers receive the training in that. But we do want to hear from parents as soon as they hear anything like you were saying.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Domingo. Thank you, Tawana. So I think the main thing, or the main reason why we're here, is that the parents, the community, the principals, the teachers, we all want to have a consistent, coordinated instruction. Parents are concerned about having the students engaged, whether it be in the remote instruction or the blended remote. So these are things that we're looking at. I know that the CEC had called this meeting because we discussed the possibility of coming up with a resolution. I don't know if we have a resolution at this time. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think anyone has the answer right now. We may have to wait for the instructions to start before we know. Does any CEC member have any comment at this time whether or not we should propose a resolution? Perhaps we're not ready, right? So unless we have any more comments or questions, I think that
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Joseph, I
Who's
had my
that?
hand raised, but I guess maybe
I'm sorry, I
didn't
didn't see you.
Sorry.
Who's that?
This is Francis Gonzalez. I have a question because this hasn't been brought up. I don't know, being that there's a lot of teachers that have asked for medical accommodations and they're going to be teaching from home, have the teachers been taught like how they should do it? Because I know that there was one parent at our last town hall in our school that said that there was a teacher's husband in the background cursing, and she heard it while her child was being taught. So I don't know if they're being taught how to like maybe seclude themselves. And I know that, you know, in the privacy of your own home, other people that you live with might be walking around in pajamas or stuff like that. And these are things that teachers need to be careful, because they're the ones that are, I mean, I'm sure in other homes as well, but that's something that's going to come up as well later on, I think, with this remote learning.
So thank you, Francis, for that. So we, you know, I like that you recognize just in your own home, because I had to mute when my son just came to the door and told me not to eat his lo mein, and he was actually yelling for a little while. So you're absolutely right, and yes, those are discussions that we have, but not just with teachers, but also with families, right? And so actually I had that conversation with principals once again today to make sure that when teachers log on, that they are in a place very much like me, because I'm in a secluded space. Also because my family doesn't want to hear me, and I think it gets a little frustrating for them when they hear me talking all the time. So that's important for me. But we've also had asked our President's Council, as well as PTAs and our school principals and teachers, to have conversations with parents as well around that. And especially, and this is a really important piece that we've been talking a lot about, that there is parent engagement time for parents to speak to their child's teacher. And there is also time, unlimited time, we say, for you to have outreach to your administration if there are any questions and concerns. But we have been asking, because once again, this is new, we have been asking parents to ensure that they are not interrupting instruction when teachers are teaching, because that is instructional time for students. And that has happened a couple of times, just maybe as a parent is sitting next to a child and they miss something and they kind of want to be able to reinforce it after the class is over. But that is why there is specific parent engagement time out there, and we do really want virtual time to be between teachers and students. So we've asked that too. So we want to continue to hear, Francis, what you're saying, both at the school level. If there are concerns, you know, you should always bring them to the school and just have conversations about what remote classrooms and learning environments should look like. So you bring up a very important point.
Can I say something?
Mr. Elise, I have a couple of other people that raised their hands before you. If you just give me a minute, I'll get to you. Superintendent, point well made. This is something that we are all learning about, and we need to be respectful of everyone as well. I know that, and Mr. Elise, I'll get back to you. I know Stephanie had her hand raised, then Alyssa Wheeler, and then I'll get to you. Stephanie, are you there?
I'm here.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Stephanie.
my question is, the students that are going blended, if your child is sick on that day, why can't those children go remote on those days?
So they can go remote. They will always have access to remote instruction. But if you are in a certain model, the attendance for the model is aligned to that model. So it's not that your child won't have access to the learning, but if your child is scheduled to be in school right now, and this is something that we have escalated for families, if your child is scheduled to be in school and they are not there, then they are marked absent. But that doesn't mean that they will not have the access to the learning, because they do. But we have escalated that question because a few families have brought that up.
Okay, thank you.
So if this should happen in a situation, the parent should contact the school and then arrangements will be made to accommodate, correct? So it's on an individual basis. Perfect. Alyssa, are you there? Alyssa Wheeler? Okay, we'll get back to her. Mr. Elise, I call you Mr. Elise because I see your name as Elise. Go ahead.
No, is Elijah in English.
Elijah,
But this is in English. This is in French. Elise.
Elise, Mr. Elise, go ahead. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Elijah.
Okay, the thing is, I got a question because not every parents got that luxury, you see, to be in a big place. You see, when the children is interacting with the teacher, you know what I mean? That depends of where you live. But let's say my question is that let's say my son, because my son had his own room, what I do when he's have classes, I go to my room and leave him by himself. But you see, they were talking about somebody doing music and everything. Like, I wanted to know if my son is not paying attention and doing something inappropriate while in class, can the teacher call me, you know, because if you just disconnect the child just gonna sit in front of the computer and they're just not gonna do anything. And I don't want him to be missing any, you see, classes and stuff like that. Can they just contact the parent directly through text so he can come, or contact somebody if he's not home to correct the mistake?
So once again, these are all school-based and maybe individual concerns, but I'm glad that you brought that up because this is very important too. So remember, instructional time is an instructional time. So a teacher should not be calling a parent while they're teaching other students, right? That's during the parent engagement time or time set aside for teachers to do that. But, you know, and I know you, if a teacher would call you to tell you that Elize was playing music, that is something you would stop right away. So it may only happen once. I definitely think that individual parents will be contacted if their children are not behaving in the virtual classrooms as they should. And as we said, there has been clear guidelines on how to behave in classrooms, which we do ask parents to enforce. You know, the same way like you wouldn't turn your phone on, or the same way, you know, you wouldn't scream out loud in class, is the same things that we expect in a virtual classroom as well. So the behaviors are also going to be something that we need to work through together as a community.
Okay. Okay. My second question is regarding screening. Because I don't give a cell phone to my son. He doesn't have a cell phone yet. But you see, I'm gonna bring him the first day of school. When he comes back, is that a way the school can provide like a paper for the screening so the children can bring home?
And they will be sending those home to you, as many as you want.
Okay, so every day we can just fill it out and put it in the backpack, and they just check the backpack.
Yes. And just let Elize know that if he has that paper and he shows that paper at the door, they'll give him access. But if he does not have that paper, he has to wait. You know, for all of the kids that don't take it, there is that process where an adult has to ask them those questions, and then they must take that child's temperature. Because remember, the expectation that we all have, and the school does have thermometers for families, the expectation that we have is that before you leave and your child leaves home, that you're assessing them to make sure that they're not sick, that they have no COVID-like symptoms, and that they don't have a temperature.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Elize. So I'm going to, I want to give a moment to Principal Abbott, who's here from Bell Academy. He wanted to respond. I know Superintendent Domingo responded, but he wanted to make a comment regarding Tawana's concern. Principal Abbott, are you here?
Yes, hi, good evening.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
We hear you, we don't see you, but that's okay.
Okay, it's, you know, I was able to sneak in the evening run today, so I'm sparing you all the image. But thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. But, you know, we truly do appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. You know, our first priority was to ensure that students had access to some level of normalcy. We just wanted to allow them into the classrooms, the virtual classrooms. And initially, we allowed all students to enter. Some, especially our newest students, didn't necessarily have their email addresses set up. At this point, we have put things in place to ensure that only Bell Academy students are logging into our sessions, that Every student who logs in is accounted for by the teachers. And this upcoming week, similar to classroom procedures, where we have to go over what the routines are and proper etiquette, our Dean of Students prepared a PowerPoint for the proper etiquette for digital classrooms. For example, one thing we notice is when the teacher says, does anyone have questions? We have about 30 students typing the word no. And we're like, no, if you reserve the right that if you have a question, type that you have a question. You don't need to respond that way. So we understand that this is a new environment and we are quickly adapting to the new environment. We do understand that there are some students that will figure out the boundaries within this new environment, and we're there to be sure to educate them and let them know what the proper etiquette is, which is a good life lesson because students need to know how to engage in the world of technology. So I appreciate the concern. We understand that a student did play music, but clearly we are letting students know that that is not something that is permissible, albeit they're at home. They're trying to let them know that we understand that you're at home, but you still need to understand that this is a classroom environment. So thank you so much for the concern, but be sure that this is something that all school leaders are addressing at this time, ensuring students are aware of proper classroom etiquette, be it digital platform or in person. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Principal Abbott. So at this time, I'm reading in the chat and I see a question that was posed. So this is from Yvette McIntyre. What is the final outcome for tonight's meeting? Are we to accept the model as is, or will there be modifications made? Where do the blended students stand? These are questions that we've asked, and this is the reason why we've held this meeting. I don't see that anyone here has an answer, but I can tell you that we've opened up the line of communication at the school level with the UFT, and we voiced our concern that we need to do what is best for the children. So I don't know. I don't have an outcome. That's why I'm asking if any CEC member beside myself has any comments they want to make towards working towards a resolution, or perhaps we have to wait another week or so and see how things go when schools actually open for these blended students.
Joe,
yes,
I have
go
a
ahead,
comment.
Victor.
So I agree with Joe. We opened the communication to DOE and UFT, and we're gonna wait and see. In my opinion, is wait and see on Monday, see how things are. Because from the conversation we had, it seems like the principal and the DOE staff have a good understanding and awareness and implementation of what will happen. So we have to give them an opportunity to see what it will happen. And from there on, we do have another meeting on Wednesday to voice our concern at that point in time.
So in fairness to all the students, so Monday is not instruction started for everyone. My understanding is that the middle schools are not starting until next Thursday, correct? October
Yes.
2nd, right?
And elementary on Tuesday, because schools are closed on Monday.
Right.
So
I was going to suggest, I'm sorry, Joe. I was just going to suggest that we wait a couple of weeks before I don't think even in the first few days, I think it's going to be like any new thing. There's going to be kinks that have to be ironed out. And I think out of respect for our district, because we do have such great principals and administrators and teachers that really want to do what's best for the kids. So I say, my suggestion is that we wait a couple of weeks, give them a chance to work it out within their schools and their communities, what works best for each individual school, because as we know, what works for one school might not work for another school, before we even, then we can readdress it again as a CEC. But I don't think that we should put like a time frame on it, because I think it's going to be a work in progress, and we have to definitely give it some time to iron out the kinks. It's going to be a rough road at the beginning, but I think that we are in good hands.
And Joe, if I may, you know,
Go ahead.
one of the things that I think is that I'm very thankful for is that we all came to the table today to share information, and I think we're all in a, you know, in a new level of understanding because of it. And I think we were all able to hear everyone's concerns and feelings about what remote learning should look like. I know what I've learned as a superintendent from this meeting also, and I'm glad so many of my principals are on here as well, is that we need to have that parents have always had a voice, but we need to make sure that we're tapping into that voice and getting their feedback. They sit with their children when they're home. They're hearing feedback from their children when they are at school. And so we need to create more opportunities to hear those voices as well around this work. But, you know, I do appreciate that everyone is on the same page of just knowing who we are in District 25 and that we are ready. And although this may be messy, there are a lot of people that are working in the best interest of children. And so, so I say, like, as many members say, to be continued, right? And that we do want anything that we can get better on. And I just keep thinking about what Amy said, like, we encourage innovation, and that's what District 25 is about. So if anyone's going to make this work, like people said, it's going to be us. So I'm looking forward to talking about this again, because we can only get better. And as this is a new journey in education, we should be champions and leaders in it.
Understood. Thank you, Superintendent. These are very good points. Victor, go ahead. I'll let you comment.
I just want to say, I apologize. I got the dates mixed up. I mean, October 1st, which is Thursday. Thank you, Christine. And October 7th is the CEC meeting. So correction on my part.
Okay. So we have our next scheduled CEC meeting for Wednesday, October 7th. I, as your chair, have not been convinced, nor have I received any motions for any resolution. So I will not move forward on that point, but I think the meeting was successful in terms we got to hear where everyone stands and what, you know, what's important to us. And I hope it really is taken to heart. And I wish, you know, mostly to our students that they have a successful week as they enter the schools next week, aside from those that already have started. And I thank everyone for joining us this evening. If there are no other comments, then I'm looking
I have
for
a
motions.
last word.
Go ahead.
Last word.
Who's
Okay.
this?
Elise.
Mr. Elise, go ahead.
Okay. You see, not every parent is the same, okay? And I don't know if you see my comment, I say, let's wait another 2 months. You see, the thing like Ms. Danielle said and everybody else said, you see, it's gonna be a challenge. You see, for the next month, you see, because they're gonna face different problems, and while they're gonna facing those problems, they're gonna adjust. For the next month, I don't know, Ms. Danielle can ask every principal to have a meeting with the parents where they can have the concern and how they can solve the problem. And after the following month, we can have another meeting with the district so we can come with a better conclusion, because not every parent's gonna actually wanna wait. You see, we're gonna just give a month. So not only the principal and the teacher, all the hard work is not gonna go for waste, so they can adjust. So with that adjustment, you see, that's me. I should a shout out for my principal for district for PS 107. She's a sweetheart. She interact with the parents. So, and Miss Groff too. My son was PS 244 if he's here. Yes, so they can interact with the parents and less because the parents also gonna let them know what we like and the problem we're facing. They can come up with a solution, and when we have the next meeting on the following month, we can say this is what we face and this is the solution we're gonna come with.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Elise. So I'm sure the schools are having their own meetings as they've been having all summer. I'm sure the district is on it. We, as your CEC, are on it. We have a meeting every month, the first Wednesday of every month. So it's not something we're going to put on the table for 2 months. If we need to discuss it and move forward on some type of resolution, we'll move forward as it is presented to us. I believe this was a good session. I don't want the parents that are pushing for the live stream to think that the live stream is off the table, and I hope it's not off the table. So something that we should continue that discussion on. Again, I am not 100% convinced that live streaming education is bad. I have not been presented with anything regarding live stream education. So maybe at our next scheduled meeting, we can have somebody present to us the positives and the negatives of live stream education. So at least we can know a little bit more about it. But that's something for our next meeting.
Joe, can I just very quickly, there's one parent that's asking a question about going from blended to remote. I just want to answer it very quickly because I know she asked again. If you are blended and want to go fully remote, remember you can go fully remote at any time. You would just contact your school. You start with your parent coordinator and they will advise you on ways that you do that quickly. And it does happen right away.
And I put the learning preference survey link in the chat as well.
But the parents need to understand if they opt to go fully remote, they cannot opt to come back to the blended until the marking period or whatever the requisite time is, correct? Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. So are there any motions to adjourn the meeting, or do we have any other comments? I know we usually run our meetings very late. This is past 2 hours. We still have about 100 participants here. Any motions or comments?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Monica, thank you, Monica.
I second the motion, Victor Lee.
And Victor seconds the motion. So this meeting is hereby adjourned. I look forward to meeting you all again at our October 7th meeting. I wish everyone the best of luck. If anyone has any concerns or any comments they would like for us to consider, you can always contact us via email or calling the office and leaving a message for Carly, or even contacting the district office and they can communicate to us as well. So everyone have a nice evening and good luck next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Hey, thank you.